This journey began May 31st of 2019 when I discovered that there was a burning sensation under my left arm. So I called my primary care physician, and she immediately set me up with a diagnostic mammogram. And that Tuesday, we did the mammogram and then followed right up with an ultrasound. And right after that, they immediately did a biopsy. And on June 7th of 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I call this a journey because it's not something that you just do one time. It's a process. It's something that you have to do every day, just like when you go on a trip. You pack for a trip, you organize, you decide what you want to bring with you. It's the same thing with this diagnosis. I was diagnosed on one day, and then I have to go through a process. I have to go through a journey to be able to get through this disease without it crippling me mentally, emotionally, physically. It's not just a one-time thing. It's something that is day by day, by day by day. One of the ways that I apply my faith through this journey is a lot of prayer, a lot of trusting in God, trusting in the physician team that has been appointed to me and assigned to me, that he would just order my steps, so to speak. And the first part of this journey was very, very tough. I had to go through chemotherapy. I had to go through mastectomy, including the removal of 25 lymph nodes, 5 weeks of radiation. At that point, in January 20th of 2020, I was officially diagnosed cancer-free. And I was so ecstatic. I thought, okay, we did this. Journey over. Done. Until April of 2022, when we found that now it's in my bones. When I initially received the diagnosis, the medical team that I had in place was amazing. The oncologist was great. My breast surgeon was great. My plastic surgeon was amazing, absolutely amazing. And going through that process, it was challenging, but I felt like I was being cared for. All the way down to even my radiation oncologist. And so from my first diagnosis all the way through March of 2020, my team was amazing. And I had my last radiation 2 days before the country shut down with COVID. In which case I was terrified. Oh my goodness, am I going to get this disease? What's going to happen to me? But I was hanging on to the cancer-free diagnosis that I had received. And it was at that point, from March of 2020 until April of 2022, that I felt my team let me down. My oncologist never did any blood work. He never did any scans at all. And it was very hard for me. I would go see him every 3 months, like clockwork. And he would just do like normal exams. Are you okay? How are you feeling? Yada, yada, yada. But I feel like he really let me down, because when I was diagnosed again in April of 22, his words to me exactly when I brought up my symptoms that I was having was, well, I guess we can do a bone scan if you want. Like, you're my physician. You're supposed to be taking care of me. Why is it if I weren't? You should have seen this. We should have been doing scans, blood work, whatever. this whole time. So, was I angry? Absolutely. Absolutely. But again, my steps were ordered and a new oncologist was assigned to me. I can't say that I've always been strong through this process. I've had a lot of times, especially in the very beginning, when I was terrified of the unknown, of the treatment plan, of the disease itself. But through my faith, I have learned to get a little stronger every day, to be able to process the disease, and to be able to, just try to be strong for my children and not let them see me fall apart when sometimes I do. It's hard. I think this diagnosis has affected my family in a positive way, believe it or not. My children are a lot closer to each other. My children and I are a lot closer to each other. We haven't had a strained relationship or anything like that, but my children and I are just very, very close now. And it's also helped me with my relationship with my husband. That relationship is growing stronger and stronger every day through this process. A lot of people ask me if I blame God for this disease, and I can honestly, genuinely say no, I do not. When I was first diagnosed in 2019 and going through chemo, going through radiation, going through surgery, I don't recall ever saying, God, why did you do this? Why me? Because I guess I just always had faith to say, okay, this is a teachable moment. This is a teachable time. What do you need me to learn? What do you need me to share? What do you need me to do to better other people's lives, to be a positive influence on other people? So I would say no, I have not blamed God. The second diagnosis in 2022, I still didn't blame God. I had questions like, what is my purpose? Why are we doing this again? But I don't remember ever actually blaming God for putting this infliction on me. It hasn't always been easy to talk about this journey. When I was first diagnosed back in 2019, I didn't want to talk about it. When people would ask me how I'm doing or want to know updates, I had a very difficult time. I would designate people to be my mouthpiece because I couldn't talk about it without breaking down, and I felt that I needed to be strong. But I feel like with this second diagnosis that happened in 2022, it's getting easier and easier for me to be able to talk about the journey, talk about the disease without falling apart like I used to. I have an absolutely amazing support system. I couldn't ask for a better support system, from my children to my mom, to my brother, my sister, my amazing sister-in-law, friends that we actually have sleepovers. As adults, I know that sounds kind of strange, but it's somebody who has gone through the cancer journey, and so we're walking together, hand in hand through this. I have a lot of my friends and family praying for me. I just couldn't ask for a better support system, including my physician team is amazing. Some of the lessons I've learned about myself through this journey is not sweating the small stuff, valuing relationships. I can get a little emotional here, but I had a very strained relationship with one of my siblings. And believe it or not, this journey has brought us so close together. So I've learned that miscellaneous types of arguments or grudges are just a single room for them. And I used to be one that would hold a grudge. So I've learned to relax more. I've learned to trust me more. I've learned to value relationships more. One of the lifestyle changes that I have through this journey is trying to take better care of myself physically. Definitely taking better care of myself spiritually. My relationship with God has grown stronger. And just miscellaneous things that I used to do just for recreation are just not important to me anymore. It's more important to me to do my best to be there in the moment and to be present, to be able to love on my grandchildren, to love on my children. Another life lesson that I've learned through this journey is humility. There is nothing more humiliating, in my opinion, than to wake up one morning and all of your hair fall out. Not a stitch of hair on your head. That was the most humiliating part of this entire journey. And I never thought of myself as a prideful person. But when I lost all of my hair, that was a wake-up call for me to say, wow, I don't like what I see in the mirror. I immediately covered my hair with a wrap. And for the next year and a half, my husband never even saw me with no hair. Because I didn't want him to see me that way, because I thought that maybe he wouldn't love me as much anymore. I wouldn't be desirable to him anymore. Because here I am, completely bald, looking like a 93-year-old man. And it was devastating. My sister went with me to try to pick out wigs, because that was her part of trying to help me process some of this. And it was awful. We went to a place that is supposed to take care of cancer patients. And when all was said and done, it was going to cost me $1,000 for a wig. And I was like, and I couldn't even say the word wig. I would just always call it hair. And so I visited my daughter in Charlotte, and we went to a hair store and bought a wig for $30. And that's the one I wore all the time. And if I didn't have my hair on, I had a wrap on. And my husband, like I said, never saw me, not even one time, without my hair. But that was humbling. That was very, very humbling for me. Cancer is not just a physical thing. Cancer affects you in multiple ways. It affects you spiritually. It affects you emotionally. It affects you mentally. It's hard physically, but I think a lot of times the emotional is harder than the physical sometimes, because you can take medication to help you with the physical pain. But you really have to have faith. And I keep going back to that. You really have to have faith in God to be able to manage, to truly be able to thrive in the process of the disease, because it's not a death sentence, so to speak. It's not. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be death emotionally. It doesn't have to be death spiritually. It doesn't have to be death physically. And I'm living proof that from 2019 and here it is 2024, I'm still alive and I'm thriving. It doesn't mean that you have to stop everything, give everything up. If anything, it helps me to enjoy life more than I used to. I used to be so uptight about everything. And I've learned to relax and soak in the moment. and the precious memories. One of the main ways that I code with this journey is through worship. I'm a vocalist, I'm a worship leader. I play keyboard. And I find that worship takes me into the place where I can not forget about, but I can check out of the reality of this disease for a little bit. I can strengthen my faith through praise, through worship, whether it's putting a song on the radio, whether it's attending a church service, whether it's just playing something in my car. Worship and prayer are the biggest things that help me to cope. And my support system. My support system helps me to cope because they don't expect me to be perfect. So it helps me to be able to cope with this disease and stay busy at work too. That's another thing. I stay really busy to try to distract me. I think calling this faith under pressure is exactly that. It's putting my trust in God, putting my trust and my faith in physicians, putting my faith being pressed on all sides, not knowing what the outcomes are going to be after every test that I have, after every scan that I have. It's a lot. It's a lot to try to process. But at the same time, to remain, God, I trust you. To remain, I rebuke this. To remain, this does not belong in my body. It's pressure. It's not an easy road. It's hard. It's a fight. They call it a fight for a reason. They call it a battle for a reason. Because everything within you fights. You're fighting physically. You're fighting spiritually. You're fighting emotionally. It's a battle. It's pressure from all sides. The message that I would like to send to others is this. When you get a bad report, don't dwell on the bad of the report. Try to find the good in the report. Try to live every day to its fullest. Turn to God. If you are not a believer, it's the perfect time to turn to God, to turn to family. Don't shelter yourself. Don't pull back. Don't just dwell on the disease itself. Find ways to still be happy. Find ways to still enjoy. Find ways to live again. Or still, whichever the case may be. Relationships that may be strained, fix them. It's not that serious. It really isn't. Because in the grand scheme of things, life is so precious. Relationships are so precious. So that's what I would like to leave with you today is press on. Grab your bootstrings, pull them up, and fight. Don't give up. Fight.
In the quiet of the night she prays for strength to face another day. Her heart is heavy but she stays with faith that won't be swept away. Tears may fall but she knows that in God's hand she will grow. She walks a path of pain and woe, yet through it all her faith will show. Faith under pressure like a diamond shaped. Through trials and fire her spirit won't break. With every breath she softly speaks, her love for God forever deep. Doctors whisper with concerned eyes, yet within her hope never dies. Battling fears with whispered ties to heavens that answer her cries. In her darkest moment she finds a light, a whisper of love in the dead of night. Though the storm is fierce, her heart won't fight. She trusts in God with all her might. In her veins the battles rage, but love and trust, they never age. Though the world may seem a cage, her soul is free on fate's stage.
They call it a battle for a reason. Don't give up. Fight.